Welcome, Leo, to the month of November 2018. I'm Megan of North Star Astrology, and this is another general transits reading for those of you born with your sun, moon, and rising signs in the fire sign of Leo the Lion. And I apologize if you can't see that up there because the blinds are kind of, there it is. Okay, so now you can sort of see my business name. Okay, so now jumping right into it, November 2nd, Venus, which has been transiting your third house of communications in Libra, sextiles the moon in your sign, Leo, the moon in Leo, and the moon starts out in your first house of the self and body. So this short but sweet, pleasant, positive 60-degree aspect between the moon in Leo to Venus in Libra gives you the sense that you can emotionally express yourself in loving, positive ways. And that happens at 4:38 on November 2nd. Then on November 4th, Jupiter, having been transiting your fourth house of the home in Scorpio, sextiles the moon. Once the moon comes into your second house of money and what you value, and then proceeds to sextile each other here. So the moon in your second house of money and what you value in the earth sign of Virgo sextiles Jupiter at 7:27. And so what this does for you is gives you the positive sense, emotional positivity and emotional sense that your money will go towards something constructive toward your home life, like as in some sort of minor decorations. Then on November 6th, Venus sextiles the moon, Venus conjuncts the moon, making a 0 to 8 degree, very close conjunction between the moon and now Venus together as one in the third house of communications in Libra. So together, the moon and Venus in your third house of communications gives you that sense of a balanced, loving intensity to be able to emote what it is that you're trying to convey from the conscious house of communications versus the unconscious and the higher conscious and the subconscious and so forth. And so therefore that's very positive, and that happens at 8:20. And also on November 6th, Uranus leaves your 10th house of career, leaving and going out of Taurus, and enters the sign of Aries in your 9th house, going retrograde. And I don't know if I have a retrograde for that. Let me see if I do or not. I do not. Darn it. Okay, well, I do still need to make that. But however, Uranus goes retrograde at 19 hours and 1 minute and does not go direct until January 6th, 2019, at which point it will move back into your 10th house of career, public standing, and the ego, back into Taurus on March 6th, 2019, but for the time being, on November 6th, it moves into your 9th house of religion and philosophy, higher learning and law. And then, on November 6th, the north node of the moon leaves your sign and enters Cancer, the sign of Cancer, into your 12th house of the subconscious mind and dreams. And that happens at 1738 and won't be moving into Gemini until May 5th, 2020. Oh, and by the way, in case I haven't mentioned, having Uranus go into your 9th house gives you unique and somewhat eccentric ways of approaching the higher mind and or philosophical standpoints and uniquely expressing those viewpoints, if you will. Then on November, excuse me, then on, then on November 7th, the new moon occurs in your 4th house of the home at 16 hours 3 minutes or 15 degrees Scorpio 11 minutes as the new moon joins the sun in Scorpio, forming what's known as that time of the month where you can go within. See, this is your soul going within, perhaps meditating within your home, taking some time off from the responsibilities of work, as this is the 6th house of work, and giving yourself that time to go within. During the new moon, it's always a good time to get more rest and sleep. I do quite often. Then on November 8th, Jupiter in Scorpio makes what is known as a quincunx or inconjunct, which looks like a line over the top of an upside down V, and to the planet, or 5 houses away, 5 signs away, to the planet Uranus. A Jupiter quincunx or inconjunct will occur at 6:21, which, by the way, I've read this natally, but it gives the person, if you don't have that in your chart, don't worry about it, but transit-wise, it sometimes makes one feel a bit on the inadequate, sometimes defensive side of things. And so within the home to and or through long distance journeys or travels, you may want to be mindful of how it is that your home life affects you internally, and maybe find ways to creatively, uniquely offset it or even transform it. And that may be something sudden that might occur. Then too, on November 8th, Mars, which has been transiting your 7th house in Aquarius, squares that same growing and or building up from the new moon, squares the new moon. So from a fixed air sign such as, well, you're a fixed fire, and since Mars doesn't make any aspects to your particular first house, your opposite sun sign nonetheless, Aquarius, Mars in Aquarius, now squares the new moon in Scorpio, both, even Taurus, see, it's like an axis or cross of fixed quality, fixed from the angular houses, nonetheless. So this square from Mars transiting your 7th house of relationships and others, marriage partners, business partners, the public eye, or actually that's the public eye, business standing and reputation, this is the public eye and the house of reputation. However, Mars square the growing new moon as we're building toward the first quarter, it gives you a sense of maybe a challenging irritation or maybe agitation toward your significant other or partner within the home. However, be mindful of that and be breathe more, take more, ask your partner to allow you to have more time to yourself and to allow you some space and allow yourself to respect your own boundaries in that sense as well as vice versa. And that way your actions and or reactions don't become aggressive, and the new moon can maybe shed light on that with this square as it creates the impetus for change, which is very helpful. Then also on November 8th, Jupiter now leaves Scorpio and enters Sagittarius into your 5th house of romance and creativity. And now Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so this is a good feeling for Jupiter to be in its own sign and in your 5th house, so you'll have luck in romance and creativity and or sporting events, sports, in other words, any kind of active participation in sports, you'll have luck in it, as well as romance. Then on November 11th, Uranus and Aries in your 9th house trines the moon. Once the moon goes into Sagittarius, that's right. I was wondering what that was. I was thinking, wait a minute, that's right, not Scorpio. But once the moon goes into the fire sign of Sagittarius, it now trines Uranus harmoniously. Now the moon in Sagittarius trines Uranus, and with this, and I love the moon in Sagittarius, it makes everyone, including my neighbors, total strangers, while you're shopping at the store, I always notice when the moon is coming from Scorpio and on into Sagittarius, it just makes everybody so much more joyous, and so that's always a good thing when you can feel joyful about having the harmony between Uranus of sudden occurrences, and maybe you might be forming a new or deeper romance because of that from someone possibly foreign or overseas. And then too, on November 13th, Uranus now squares the moon once the moon goes into your 6th house of health, work, and service given in Capricorn, and then makes the challenging square to Uranus. And again, we're dealing with a lot of the planet Uranus. However, since it's retrograde, we may want to be aware of our actions and how we affect future generations, as this is a generational planet. And with this emotional square between the two, it gives you the ability to bring forth unique ideas within the workplace. So, however, that can be a good, challenging impetus to bring that out and forth. Then, the first quarter moon occurs at 23 degrees Aquarius, 11 minutes, or at 14 hours, 55 minutes in your 7th house of others and relationships. And this then, stemming from the new moon, and with this first quarter phase moon placement, gives you the ability to take action emotionally, and first and unique steps toward the right direction that you're going, whatever that may be. And then on November 15th as well, Neptune. Not Neptune. Because I'm thinking of Mars. Not Mars. I'm thinking of Pisces. What am I saying? God. I'm acting, it's almost as if I'm acting like Mercury is in retrograde already. Okay. Mars enters Pisces into your 8th house of sex, death, and taxes, and others as resources. Goodness gracious. Okay. So, Mars enters Pisces at 22 hours, 22 minutes. And that would be, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, around 7 or 8:22. I can never remember. Anyway, it's military time. So, that's somewhere in the evening that Mars enters Pisces. So now it leaves your 7th house, enters your 8th. And how this might affect you, only you know, because it's just a general reading. And then, too, on November 16th, Uranus sextiles that first quarter moon. So from fire to air, meaning 2 signs, 2 houses away, this is very sweetly short but sweet harmonious, as in the trine, only this time it's dealing with the other fire sign to you, Aries and Uranus, to the air sign in Aquarius. First quarter phase moon sextiling Uranus in Aries. So from your 7th to your 9th houses, this sextile brings you the emotional positivity to emotionally express yourself in unique ways, perhaps with publishing and or long distance travels. What if you're perhaps flying or traveling overseas? Then on November 16th as well, Venus stations direct at 10:52. And now I don't have one of those little R or D symbol tags for this. I may go ahead and try to create those soon enough. And anyhow, Venus, for all of us, for every one of us, is going to improve our love life, as well as, well, in your case for yourself, with Venus stationing direct, it directly affects your communication as it's going direct in your third house. And what that means is you can consciously communicate in loving, albeit maybe even dramatic ways. Then on November 17th, now we come to one of my tags. Oh, Mercury goes retrograde. And usually I say, oh, good, get out of here, retrograde. But no, Mercury is going to be going retrograde in your 6th house in Capricorn at 11:34 on November 17th. So be mindful of what you sign or date or whatever it is within your workplace for any kind of work deadlines. Be very mindful to be sure to look over any documents carefully before you sign anything, even if it isn't toward yourself. Say if you're like working in life insurance or something, then be very mindful now that Mercury's retrograde. And then of course there's that whole shadow period before and after. And I apologize for bumping my tripod there if the camera shook. Okay. Then on November 18th, the following day, the Sun, your ruling planet, the Sun, in Scorpio, in your 4th house of the home, trines the Moon once the Moon enters your 8th house in Pisces. So now we see here a very harmonious trine between the Sun in Scorpio and the Moon in Pisces. And what this will do for you is be able to give you the emotional drive to ask for and maybe receive from others' resources toward some kind of home renovation or remodeling project, and bring it to a culmination or completion, perhaps in a very harmonious, albeit perhaps even spiritual sense, as perhaps you're developing like a yurt or one of those like commune type healthy home communities, perhaps, but mainly for your own home, but also just as much for others, as it's others' resources, as well as perhaps for your own home. Then on November 20th, Uranus conjuncts the Moon in Aries in your 9th house of law and higher education and the higher mind. This is the house of the higher mind versus when I was speaking about the conscious, concrete, everyday communication. And this is a time to emotionally connect to a more possibly psychic part of you through meditation, through some sort of travel, say to, if you were to afford to go to Tahiti for, for a chance to, or India or something like that. It'll give you that chance to learn to tap into a higher realm of consciousness in that sense, with that conjunction, possibly. Then, on November 22nd, your ruling planet, the Sun, enters Sagittarius into your 5th house of romance and creativity at 9:03, giving you that sense of, again, just like the moon, giving you that sense of joviality and and as the 5th house is actually your naturally residing house, Leo, there is that sense of feeling at home with both the Sun and Jupiter here in your 5th house of romance and creativity. You will greatly enjoy your sporting events. Go see a game. Go watch the Warriors live, not just on TV or something, you know? I wish I could. Wow, that sounds like so much fun. Then on November 22nd as well, Pluto, which has been transiting your 6th house of work in Capricorn, trines the moon once the moon goes into your 10th house of career and public standing in Taurus. So now, in alignment with this very harmonious trine between the moon in the grounded earth but yet fixed sign of Taurus to Pluto, the outer planet, which subsequently went direct, thankfully, and that helps matters much, in your 6th house of work. So from the 6th to the 10th houses, you may very well be able to emotionally get your point across without using your ego. Be mindful of allowing your ego to get in the way. So edge God out. In other words, do not edge God out. Do not use your ego in your career. And harmoniously, emotionally ask for some kind of change in your work and or career sector or houses of these fields or whatever field you're in. Ask for a different level and let them know you have more experience. Emotionally express, and you will receive quite the transformation at this point in your career and possibly manifest it. As Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn, however, be mindful still of Mercury retrograde. But we're just dealing with Moon trine Pluto at this point. Then too, on the following day, November 23rd, the full moon occurs. Now that your ruling planet, the Sun, is in Sagittarius, and now the full moon in Gemini occurs at 0 degrees Gemini, 52 minutes at 5:40. And with this full moon, you can illuminate your need for friendships and your friends, and you can see your goals, hopes, and wishes come alive or possibly come true. Any goals you had in mind, and you can shed light and or be a light, be the light, and be the ball. Then on November 25th, Neptune stations direct at 1:09 in Pisces in your 8th house, allowing you to be less possibly befuddled if that was causing you any misunderstandings with others' resources and or valuing others. And then on November 25th as well, Uranus sextiles that waning full moon. So from your 9th to your 11th houses, now the waning full moon in Gemini positively expresses the need, as the moon deals with needs, expresses the need to take some time off and enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. And that happened at 5:32. And then on 2 days later, on November 27th, Uranus squares the moon. Once the moon enters your 12th house of the subconscious mind and dreams in Cancer, and now gives you that sense of really needing and desiring and definitely needing to retreat and nurture yourself and go within, but yet feeling the need to also be among unique individuals of a different sort or culture. And this challenges your need to be at times alone, but not alone. I don't know. I don't know how that will affect you. Then on November 29th, Jupiter, having gone in Sagittarius, now makes a semi-square, which is 45 degrees away. It's similar to the square, semi-square, I think. I don't know if it's sesqui-square or semi-square. I think it's semi. Anyway, from Jupiter to Pluto. I don't know how this will affect you, but it's, in my opinion, it's almost like a dissonance, as it's too close to each other, almost in a sense causing friction between the planet of Jupiter aspecting Pluto in your 6th house. So maybe be mindful of creating, taking a co-worker as a romantic partner. Be careful of that, especially with Mercury retrograde or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I feel that it's like some sort of be watchful and cautious of taking on a new romantic partner from within the workplace, especially if that's frowned upon. Then on November 29th, Uranus trines the moon. Once the moon enters your sign, Leo, into your 1st house of the self and body. So now we see you feeling quite harmonious about being yourself and transporting your physical body overseas on a long distance trip. However, this also represents, with the moon in Leo, and I always notice, I don't know if anybody else notices this, but when the moon is in your sun sign throughout the month, do you ever notice you kind of sometimes feel melancholy at times or a bit challenged? However, with this harmonious trine, maybe not so, maybe not so as severe, or you know what I mean. It's kind of like a weird sense I get. Almost every single sun sign, including myself, when the moon enters Pisces, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I kind of just want to be over here in the 12th house and retreat and kind of not want to be out there. But with the moon now in your sign, you will be very visible as you are, as in, you know what I mean? People will see you, and of course they will love you and everything, but it's kind of a strange feeling. It's like not wanting or needing the limelight at this point, you know. Then on November 30th, the last quarter moon occurs at 0 hours 20 minutes. On the very last day of the month, November 30th, the last quarter phase occurs at 0 hours 20 minutes and or 7 degrees Virgo, 43 minutes. And this may mean wrapping up any last quarter earnings, whatever you want to call it, resources coming to an end, not necessarily the whole end, you know, but last moment deadlines or something or other.